This course was prepared with the administrative staff in mind to review the basics of clinical research, both for drugs and for devices, and to highlight the important role that everyone has in this process. So let's get started. We have a lot of objectives today. The first one is to recognize how important it is to have a knowledgeable support staff. You can't imagine how much you contribute to the bottom line of your team. Very, very important person. And you can only be important if you have that knowledge to be able to ask questions or to input some experiences that you have had, perhaps in a different industry, perhaps in this industry at a different department, in some other fashion. It's not that you have to have been in the company for a long time to be able to contribute. We're going to define some common terms that are used in the industry, both in drugs and devices. We're going to describe some of the basics of the development process. How do drugs come about? How do devices come about? Who regulates those? Why do we do the studies we do? We're going to describe some basic principles of good clinical practice. You'll hear this as GCP, good clinical practice. What are the basic principles for that? We'll talk about a little about the design of the clinical studies, the protocols themselves. We're going to work on describing the team itself. Who has responsibility for what? And how would you know that? Who would you go to if you had a question about specifics? We're going to list some essential standard operating procedures, SOPs. We have many of them in this business. They're a great training tool, and we'll talk to that and why it's important to keep those updated. Many times the administrative staff are responsible for keeping them updated, typing in changes perhaps, documenting who's reviewing them, who's reading them, who's training on them. Why is that important? And what use does the regulatory authority have of your SOPs? We're going to list some essential documents. We'll describe what they are and why are they needed in your study file. What do they tell the world? We're going to discuss some importance of the training itself. Again, the documentation is critical. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. You can sit for days and look at SOPs, but if you don't sign the documentation, then the regulatory authority will make the decision that you were not trained on that given procedure. How did you do that? How did you know what to do? It's because you read and understood the SOP. But if it's not documented, you won't be getting credit for that. We're going to look at the rationale then for building quality into the filing system. We have to think of quality before we even begin. We can't worry about quality at the very end. It needs to come up in the very beginning. And then lastly, we'll talk about if you are chosen for a regulatory authority inspection, how can you react to that? What would you do? What should you not do? Some advice.